Later on, a deity whose name was Heru, also we used an ideograph or an ideogram for him, and this graph was turned upside down. So we have a triangle that's facing up this way, and a triangle that's facing down this way. Now, because of geometric progression, when the elements begin to blend one with the other, we find that this triangle blended with this triangle. And then we have the triangles interlocking like this. What is that? Star of who? Huh? Star of David? No way! David wasn't even born yet, if he existed. But anyhow, it is called the Star of David, etc. But the ancient folks from certain parts of the continent call this Potolo. Potolo, or the, you know what is that Sirius mysteries they're talking about? What are the people from West Africa called that talk about they see a star without a telescope? The Sirius. Dogons. They call this Potolo. But later on in Kemet, Egypt, these ideographs, as I said, representing Seth and Heru, they came together around 4,100 years before the Christian era at a concept we call Sma Tawi, which is the union of the lands, both the northern and southern parts of ancient Kemet, Egypt. And the blending of these two deities produced this symbol that I just shared with you. Now, fire, earth, air, water, and ether, they are, with the blending, they are called the Mesu, M-E-S-U, Heru, or the children of Heru is what these elements are called, and they're represented by this six-pointed star, or sometimes an eight-pointed star. So if we are to understand the first cause of disease, we have to understand the nature of fire, earth, air, and water in its relationship to the physical body and the mental body, which we're going to talk to about in a little bit. So excess fire produces heat or fever. Excess earth produces excess flesh or fatty tissue excess. Excess air, hyperventilation. Excess water will produce swellings, etc. And the ether is basically just the mold in which they are found. So this is how we must first understand causation in terms of the venereal cause of imbalances or disease. Is this clear so far? Yeah, okay, good. There's a lot more to this, in which I have a book that's called Caribbean Medicine that is in the back there, if there's any more left, that discusses this a little bit, but also, sister just showing it to me back there. There's also, initially I presented the data in Amtechwate, and Amtechwate is classical African medicine, and it talks a lot about this concept of disease causation. So the first cause is venereal cause, and the venereal cause of disease has to do with the elements. Is that clear? Y'all don't get up and walk to find a book now. I shouldn't tell you about that yet. I have at least 2 left. Don't worry about it. So what's the second cause of disease that I shared with you?
Natural.
Natural cause, state of mind. Natural cause of disease. Natural, again, has to do with mind or mental balance or imbalance. Before I go forward, I want to give you just a little more information in terms of the cosmology, the way the ancients discuss beings as existing. The first plane is the plane of spirit, or the spiritual plane. And as the spirit descends into matter, we have it taking on a body, and so it becomes a material plane. But this material plane is divided into several factors or several parts, and that's what I want to share with you now. The first part is called causal, C-A-U-S-A-L, and causal simply means mental or mind state. The second is the astral plane, and that is the plane relating to the planets. And then the last plane is the material physical plane, which is the plane of this body. Now, that's how the ancients broke up the actual cosmology. Spirit and matter, or spirit and material. The material plane had the 3 parts, and spiritual plane had 9 subdivisions. And these subdivisions, they were given several names. And if you just study the book of Pert M. Heru, which is now called the Book of Coming Forth by Day and by Night, or the Book of the Dead, and you look at the deities at Anu, A and U, you will find these deities each ruling a subplane of spirit. Okay, so I'm just giving you that information so that you can have that, because that's where you'll find the area relating to spiritual culture. Now, natural cause of disease has to do with states of mind. And mind is in actuality not something that is spiritual, but it is a material phenomenon, as you can see from this breakdown. This material plane has causal or mind plane, astral, and physical plane. Spiritual plane is not part of this, except for it gives it life. Now, the ancients thought that natural cause of disease, or states relating to the mind, we had a mind bank. And this mind bank is all of the thought forms or impressions that we've had from the time we were ever created. Now, with each subsequent incarnation, and the ancient Kemites, Africans, spoke of incarnation, and I want to make this clear because the deity Khepera, K-H-E-P-R-A, or Kheper-Ra, deals with the whole concept of reincarnation. It is not an Indian solely thing. Okay, it was also a Kemetic African thing dealing with coming back again, coming into life again, Khepera. But primarily, from the first birthing, we were given certain thought impressions came forth from us. At each subsequent rebirthing on the physical plane from spirit, we took a part of this thought pattern to formulate our present life cycle. Now, each life cycle takes from this bank. This is a bank, and the ancient Indians called this bank, this mind bank, Chit, C-H-I-T. And the Chit, when it becomes manifested in a present life, gives forth ego. It also has a reasoning part of it, R-E-A-S-O-N, and a thinking part of the thinking faculty. So mind zone actually has a mind bank. Mind has an ego part to it. It has a part that reasons, and it has a part that's dealing with thinking, the process of thinking. Now, when these balances are thrown off, one way or another, then the natural state of inharmony or dishealth comes about. I am not going to get too much into the mind imbalances because the psychiatric aspect of that we will, if you do get Ankh-Tetuate at some point, you'll be able to read up on this. But primarily, when the thinking faculty becomes affected by one of these factors, lust, anger, greed, attachment, or ego. These are the 5 negatives that actually affect the human being through the actual mental self, or the mind zone becomes affected through one of these factors. And how does that come about? I would share with you basically that information. Lust anger, greed, attachment, and ego. These are the 5 aspects that attack the human being or the human person through the level of mind. Lust brings forth imbalance within the structure through, who can guess? What vehicle?
Reproduction.
Huh?
Reproduction.
The birth of reproduction. That's probably finally how it gets there, but initially how is it set up? Through the eyes. You know when the brothers see the sisters walking down the street, what they say? I mean, you know, that ain't no reproduction happening yet. Okay, so these 5, lust, anger, greed, attachment, and ego, I probably should write them here. Lust, anger, greed, attachment, and ego. They all attack the system through one of the sense organs. And the ancients left a doctrine that said that lust attacked through the eyes, anger through the ears, greed through the tongue or taste factors, attachment through the sense of touch, and what's the last one? What's that? Yeah, it's ego, but we have eyes, ears, taste, touch. Smell. You know, it's real interesting that a lot of the sense, a lot of the aroma, a lot of the things that happen around you affect this thing called ego. And I don't have the time really to break this down in a scientific way, but ego is affected by, what did I say? What did he say? Oh, good. I'm glad you do. Because when you wear some of them Avon stuff and things, you know, you chase the angels. But anyhow, well, that's a whole nother story. Really. So, but primarily, they said that 80% of imbalances come through the eyes. And lust, as I said, attack you through basically the eye or the sense of seeing. Anger has to do with what you hear. So when we start to listen to sounds, there are different types of sounds that will create either balance or imbalance within the system. And I just want to share one minor detail here with you in terms of the science of this. The physical body experiences the cosmos through actually both the head hair, your locks, for instance, or your hair, which you either sizzle, burn, fry, or keep in a natural state, because this is like your antenna. The antenna that takes on the vibrations from the cosmos. Now, from the hair into the brain and spinal column or spinal cord, which all of the basic nerve endings then radiate to different parts of the body, your arms, legs, stomach, etc. And sounds, different sound patterns, when it comes to the brain, will affect one part of this spinal column, either one part of the cervical spine, which has 7 in nature. There's several cervical spine, there are 12 thoracic, and then there, how many in the lumbar spine? 5 or 6 sometimes, you know, there's extras. Okay, and then you go on to the coccyx, which is that little part in the bottom that acts as a pendulum. Okay, but all of these items, if you look at these numbers, the next point we'll get to, it'll become important. How many initial planets were there? There were 7 planets, right, initially. How many signs of the zodiac are there? 12 signs of the zodiac. How many elements we looked at? 5, you know, fire, earth, air, water. But all of these actually has to do with certain correspondences within nature, which I will talk about at some other point, but I want to share with you so that some seeds can be planted and you can begin to intone some things for yourself. But sound waves affect this nervous system. The brain, spinal column, meningeal system, and the meninges, is the covering of the brain and spine, right? Certain sound pattern, if it's a drum beat, it will affect you a certain part right around T3 to around T5 that affects both the respiratory system and heart. Okay, and certain violent sounds will affect more of the cervical spine, and certain other sound rhythm beats will affect you in the lower chakra areas, as they're called, affecting reproductive function. And if you want to really experience sound patterns, if you go to the discotheque, you'll find that certain sounds will move you in certain directions, right? And if you go to church, the sounds move in another direction, right? Okay, so basically, sound pattern affect the nervous system either negatively or positively. So I wanted to just share with you in terms of the natural state of imbalance or harmony, or states of the mind. Lust, anger, greed, attachment, and ego come through the senses. And once we are to balance these areas through specific ways that I'll talk about a little later, then natural cause will no longer have an effect.